I always believed my son Ethan was a smart boy, too smart sometimes. He noticed every small detail, remembered everything, and asked questions that even adults hesitated to ask. He was only 7, but his heart was bigger than his age, and his instincts sharper than mine ever were. But the day he tugged at my sleeve and whispered, "Mom, something is wrong with Dad," I didn't pay enough attention. I look back now and wish I had stopped everything and listened, really listened. But that's the thing about warnings. You don't understand their gravity until the ground beneath you finally breaks. It was a chilly Tuesday afternoon in our small suburb outside Nashville. The leaves had shifted from bright oranges to dull browns, the kind that dance in circles on the street before settling beside the gutters. I had just picked up Ethan from school, his backpack half open, papers sticking out like they were trying to escape. He was quiet that day. Usually he talked the whole ride home about his teacher's weird shoes, a kid who brought an iguana to show, or the mystery of who stole the class pencils again. But today, he stared out the window, his breath fogging the glass. "Everything okay, but?" I asked, glancing at him in the rearview mirror. Ethan hesitated. "Mom, can I tell you something?" "Of course." He bit his lip, a gesture he only did when he was scared. "It's about Dad." That alone should have made me pull over, stop the car, and look him in the eye. But I kept driving. I regret that now more than anything. "What about Dad?" He looked down at his shoes. "He's different." I laughed softly. "Well, everybody has off days. Maybe he's tired." "No," he said firmly. "It's not like that. He's doing things, weird things." And he said, "I can't tell you." I raised a brow. "He said that." Ethan nodded. "But my husband Mark wasn't a bad man. Or at least, I never thought he was. He wasn't the type to tell our son to keep secrets. That had always been our household rule. No secrets between Mom, Dad, and Ethan ever." "What kind of things?" I asked carefully. Ethan opened his mouth, then shut it quickly. "If I tell you, he'll be mad." The fear in his voice made my heartbeat quicken. "Sweetie, your dad doesn't get mad at you for talking to me." Ethan didn't respond. I wanted to keep asking questions, but the school zone lights were flashing beside the stop sign, and I needed to focus on the road. As we turned the corner onto Maple Ridge Lane, he whispered so quietly I almost missed it last night. "He went to the basement again." I frowned. "The basement? You mean for laundry?" "No." He shook his head quickly. "He wasn't doing laundry. He locked the door. And, Mom, he brought that black bag again." Black bag. A cold chill crawled down my spine. I forced a calm smile. Maybe he was working on something for his job. "No," he insisted. "He told me to stay in my room. And he said it wasn't safe." "Unsafe?" "What wasn't safe?" "Our own basement." My stomach tightened. "Did you see what was in the bag?" I asked gently. He hesitated. "I saw something, but I don't think I was supposed to." "What did you see?" Ethan swallowed. "I think it was a glove, not a normal one. It had." He paused again, his eyes widening like he remembered something frightening. "Like metal things on it." "Metal, like tools." He shivered. "And there was something else too, something wrapped in a cloth." "What was it?" "I don't know, but it was red." Red. The word hung between us like a warning siren. When we pulled into the driveway, Mark's truck was already there. Strange, he usually got home half an hour after us. Ethan tensed in the back seat. "Mom, don't tell him I talked to you, okay?" "Ethan, please." He looked at me with wide, fearful eyes. My heart cracked. Something was very wrong. I squeezed his hand. "Okay. Not yet." His small shoulders relaxed just a little. We got out of the car, and the moment I opened the front door, the smell hit me first. Something smoky, something metallic, not like dinner, not like cleaning supplies, something unfamiliar. Mark was in the kitchen, leaning over the counter, wiping his hands with a towel. When he looked up, he forced a smile. "There you are," he said casually. "Traffic, okay?" His eyes darted at Ethan too quickly before he looked back at me. "Yeah," I replied slowly. "Wasn't bad." He dropped the towel. His fingers were trembling. My husband never trembled. "Everything okay?" I asked. He nodded. "Just a long day." His voice was flat, too flat. When he leaned over to hug Ethan, my son froze, stiff as a board. Mark didn't seem to notice, or pretended not to. Something deep in my gut twisted. "Dinner in an hour," Mark said as he brushed past us and walked upstairs. "I've got something to finish first." "Finish what?" He never answered questions directly anymore. The moment he disappeared up the stairs, Ethan tugged my sleeve again. Mom, he whispered urgently, don't go into the basement tonight. Promise me. My blood ran cold. Why? Because, he said, lowering his voice to the faintest whisper, he goes down there after midnight. And last night, I think someone else was down there too. I blinked. Someone who? Ethan shook his head quickly. I don't know, but I heard talking, and something else. Something else. He looked up at me, his small face pale. A scream. The room tilted for a moment. A scream. No, that couldn't be right. We didn't live in a horror movie. This was our safe, quiet little neighborhood. People jogged at 6 a.m., baked cookies at Christmas, waved at each other from across lawns. Men didn't hide in basements. Kids didn't hear screams. But Ethan was telling the truth. He always told the truth. Are you sure? I managed to ask. He nodded. What did it sound like? He trembled, like someone was really hurt, like not a kid. My throat tightened. Was he imagining things? Having nightmares? Mishearing? But the fear in his eyes wasn't imagination. It was real. And then he said one more thing, the thing that hollowed my chest. Mom, I think Dad is hiding something from both of us. And I think you're not safe. A cold wave washed over me. Not safe. From my own husband. I wrapped my arm around him protectively. Ethan, nothing is going to happen to you. I promise. But as I hugged him, my eyes drifted toward the basement door closed tightly, a faint black smudge near the doorknob. And the smell, that strange metallic smell, still lingered faintly in the air. That night, as the clock ticked closer to midnight, I would finally discover what my husband had been hiding. And nothing, absolutely nothing, could have prepared me for what I saw next. That night, the house felt different, not in the way storms make the windows rattle, or the way winter turns old wood into squeaky floors. No, this was a deeper kind of different, a heaviness that settled between the walls, like the air itself was holding its breath. Dinner was quiet, too quiet. Mark barely looked at either of us. He kept glancing at his phone, tapping his foot nervously against the leg of the table. Every few minutes, he would wipe his hands on that same towel from earlier, as if they were dirty, even though they didn't look dirty at all. Ethan didn't touch his food. He just stared at his father with those wide, cautious eyes. He was watching him the way a small animal watches a predator, hopeful it won't be noticed, but ready to run if needed. At one point, Mark finally spoke. You feeling okay, buddy? He asked Ethan. Ethan hesitated, then nodded. Yeah, you sure? The tone in Mark's voice made me tense. It wasn't warm. It wasn't fatherly. It was searching. Almost as if he was trying to figure out how much Ethan knew. I stepped in. He's fine. He's just tired. Mark shifted, his eyes toward me, slow, heavy, almost suspicious. Long day at work, he murmured. I'm tired too. But the look on his face didn't say tired. It said something else, something I couldn't name. When dinner was over, Mark disappeared upstairs again. The moment he was out of sight, Ethan leaned closer to me and whispered, Mom, he's waiting. He always waits. He doesn't go to the basement until it's really late. My throat tightened. How do you know? Because I hear him every night. He waits until the house gets really quiet. Then he walks, slowly, like he doesn't want me to hear. But I do. His voice trembled. Mom, I don't think we should sleep tonight. A mother should never hear those words from her child. After Ethan brushed his teeth and changed into his pajamas, I tucked him into bed, though neither of us believed he would sleep. He stared at the doorway, as if expecting someone to appear. Should we lock the door? He whispered. My heart ached. Do you want me to? He nodded. I quietly turned the lock. Mom, yes, baby. He swallowed hard. What if he tries to open it? A cold shiver crept down my spine. He won't, I lied. But what if he does? I took a deep breath, choosing my words carefully. If anything feels wrong, I'll be right here. You call me, you scream, anything, and I'll come running. Okay. Ethan nodded weakly. I kissed his forehead and turned off the lamp, leaving only the soft glow of the nightlight, shaped like a tiny rocket ship, the only thing that made him feel safe. Then, I went into the hallway, pulled the door nearly shut, and stood still. Listening. Waiting. Thinking. Mark had always been secretive about certain things, his job, his finances, his friends, but never like this. Never enough to terrify our son. Never enough to make me second-guess our entire marriage. When we first met, he was charming, the kind of man who knew how to make you feel chosen. He held doors, brought flowers, made grand promises. We got married fast. Too fast maybe, but back then, it felt right. Life felt exciting. But over the last year, he had changed. He grew distant, hid things, lied more than he told the truth. And now I wasn't even sure I knew him. Around 11:30 p.m., I heard our bedroom door close. His footsteps crossed the hall, slow and deliberate. Then silence. Then the faint creak of the basement stairs. My stomach dropped. Ethan was right. He really did wait until it was late. I stepped quietly into the hallway, careful not to make the floorboards creak. The house was dark, except for a thin sliver of light coming from underneath the basement door. That awful metallic smell floated up again, stronger this time. I forced myself down the stairs, each step heavy with dread. When I reached the kitchen, I stopped behind the wall, just close enough to hear soft thuds, something shifting, a faint scraping sound, and then voices. Not loud ones, not clear ones, but enough to make every hair on my arms stand straight up. I leaned closer. One voice was Mark's. The other was weaker, hoarse, strained, like someone who had been crying, or someone who had screamed too much. My chest tightened painfully. "Stop, please," the second voice whispered. I slapped my hand over my mouth to stop myself from gasping. Mark's voice came next, cold and low. "Told you not to make this harder." My heart dropped straight into my stomach. What was happening down there? Who was he talking to? Was someone really in our basement? Was that the scream Ethan heard? Suddenly, the light under the basement door flickered, then dimmed. Shadows moved across the crack. I pressed myself against the kitchen counter, terrified he might come up, but he didn't. The footsteps went deeper, toward the far side of the basement, the side I never went to, the side he always said was too messy or unfinished. My hands shook uncontrollably. I had two choices. 1. Wait until he came back upstairs and pretend everything was normal. 2. Open that door and finally see what he was hiding. Option 1 felt safer. Option 2 felt necessary. For my son, for myself, and for whoever, or whatever, was in that basement with him. I reached for the doorknob. It was warm, too. Warm, like something hot was running through the metal. My pulse hammered as I slowly turned it. The latch clicked softly. Then I pulled the door open just an inch, just enough to peek inside, just enough to see a shadow, a shape, a person, tied to a chair. And then I saw the floor. The stains. The tools, the black bag, and Mark, my husband, standing there, breathing heavily, his back toward me. Wasn't doing laundry. He wasn't fixing anything. He wasn't working on a project. He was doing something else. Something horrifying. My breath caught in my throat. And that's when the floor creaked beneath my foot. Just a tiny sound, but enough. Mark's head snapped around. His eyes locked with mine. Not the eyes of a man I married. Not the eyes of a husband. The eyes of a stranger. A dangerous one. A man I should have never let near me or my child. Stepped toward the stairs slowly, like a predator who just spotted its prey. "Why are you awake?" he asked, his voice chillingly calm. My entire body turned to ice. I stepped backward. I couldn't speak. I couldn't think. All I could hear were Ethan's words echoing in my mind. "Mom, I think you're not safe." And he was right, because the man climbing those stairs toward me wasn't my husband. Not anymore. I didn't realize I had stepped backward until my shoulder hit the kitchen wall. Mark took one slow step at a time, up the basement stairs, his shadow stretching longer with each movement, crawling over the walls like a living thing. His breathing was steady, disturbingly steady, while mine was uneven, shallow, rapid. Everything in my body screamed at me to run, but my legs felt cemented to the floor. "Why are you awake?" he repeated, his tone lower this time. His hand tightened around the railing. His knuckles were smeared with something dark, something too thick to be dirt. "What?" My voice failed. I swallowed hard, trying again. "What were you doing down there?" The moment I said it, his eyes narrowed. Wrong question. A dangerous one. He stepped fully into the kitchen now, leaving the basement door open behind him. The light from below cast a long rectangle of pale yellow across the floor, illuminating the very edge of the stairs, and a glimpse of something red smeared along the wood. My heart pounded so loudly I could hear the blood rushing in my ears. "I told you," Mark said slowly, wiping his hands on that same towel. This time, the towel came away with a reddish tint. "I was working." "That's not work," I whispered. He stopped. His face didn't change, but something behind his eyes did. Something cold and calculating. "What exactly do you think you saw?" he asked. The way he said it, calm, manipulative, like he was preparing a lie, made my stomach twist. I don't know, I stammered. His lips curled slightly. You always were a terrible liar. He took another step forward. I instinctively backed away. Mark, I breathed. What's happening? Talk to me, please. He tilted his head, studying me as though I were some complicated puzzle he needed to solve. Why are you scared? Because you're scaring me. Because of the stains. Because someone is down there. Because our son heard a scream. Because I don't know who you are anymore. But I couldn't say any of those things. I didn't get the chance. A sound interrupted us, a soft creak on the upstairs landing. Ethan. My heart nearly stopped. Mark's eyes flicked upward. Is he awake? He asked quietly. I stepped into his line of sight immediately. No, he's asleep. But Mark didn't believe me. He continued staring up the staircase like an animal scenting movement. And that's when I realized something was truly broken inside him. This wasn't just secrets. This wasn't stress. This wasn't work. This was danger. Sharp, immediate, lethal. I needed to get Ethan out of this house, but Mark was between me and the stairs. I forced my heaviest, most tired sigh. Mark, it's late. I'm exhausted. You're exhausted. Can we please just talk in the morning? He didn't answer, just stared. I felt the air thicken with tension so heavy I could almost taste it. Then, slowly, he smiled, not a comforting smile. A knowing one. Sure, he finally said, voice to pleasant. Morning, sounds perfect. His tone sent chills racing down my spine. He turned toward the sink, dropped the towel in it, and washed his hands, scrubbing hard, like a surgeon preparing for something, or trying to erase evidence. He watched the water swirl down the drain, then shut it off, wiped his hands on his jeans, and walked upstairs without another word. He didn't even glance at me, which made it worse, because he was always good at hiding emotions. But tonight, he wasn't even trying. He was planning something. I waited until I heard the bedroom door close upstairs. Then I counted to 30 and ran. Ethan opened his door the moment he saw me. His eyes were huge, terrified. Mom, he whispered urgently. I heard him. I know, I said, grabbing his backpack from the floor. We're leaving. Ethan froze. Right now. Yes, but where? Anywhere safe. He nodded, trusting me instantly, the kind of trust that breaks your heart in the best and worst ways. He shoved his favorite stuffed dinosaur into the bag, along with a pair of socks and one random Lego piece. Not important, but I didn't stop him. Kids cling to the smallest things when they're scared. I slung the backpack over my shoulder, grabbed my purse from the hallway table, and quietly led him downstairs. Halfway down, Ethan tugged my hand. What about Teddy? Of course he'd ask. Teddy was his old blanket, practically a family member at this point. Leave it, I whispered, but it's okay, I promise. He nodded, though sadness flickered across his face. We reached the front door. I unlocked it with the smallest click possible, but the second I opened it, a voice sliced through the darkness behind us. Going somewhere. I froze. Ethan squeezed my hand, trembling. Slowly, I turned around. Mark stood at the bottom of the staircase. He wasn't in pajamas. He wasn't half asleep. He was fully dressed, shoes on, jacket zipped. He was waiting. He knew we'd tried to leave. And worse, he wanted to see it. His face was shadowed, unreadable. Late for a walk, isn't it? He asked softly. No anger. No confusion. Just that eerie calm again. I forced a small laugh, the weakest of my life. Ethan couldn't sleep. I thought some fresh air. No, Mark cut me off sharply. That's not what this is. My throat tightened. He took one step forward. Ethan clung to me. Mark tilted his head at our son. Did you tell her something? Did you tell her lies? Mark, I snapped, shielding Ethan. Don't talk to him like that. His jaw flexed. My pulse thundered. Come back inside, he said. Now. I shook my head. We're leaving for the night. Mark's eyebrows lifted, but strangely, he didn't move. Is that right? He murmured. I swallowed. Yes. He stared at me for a long moment. Then he smiled. Okay, he said. My breath caught in my chest. Okay, just like that. But then he added, you can leave. If you answer one question. Every instinct screamed run, but my body wouldn't obey. What question? I forced out. His eyes glinted. What did you see downstairs? My blood turned to ice. Ethan whimpered softly behind me. I placed my hand protectively on his head. Think. If I told the truth, we were trapped. If I lied, he might see right through it. But then I realized something worse. There was no answer he would accept. Not tonight. Not anymore. I squeezed Ethan's hand. Run, I whispered. He gasped softly but obeyed. He darted toward the open door. Mark lunged. I threw myself between them, shoving him as hard as I could. And for the first time in years, I saw real surprise flash across his face. I didn't wait for a second reaction. I grabbed Ethan's arm. We sprinted outside. The cold night air hit us like a slap. Behind us, the front door banged open. Footsteps thundered after us. "Come back here," Mark roared. I pulled Ethan toward the car keys. Where were the keys? My hands shook violently as I dug through my purse. Receipts, lip balm, a pen. Not the keys. "Mom," Ethan cried. I dumped the entire contents onto the driveway. There the keys. I grabbed them, clicked the unlock button, shoved Ethan into the passenger seat, and ran around to the driver's side. But before I could close my door, a hand slammed against it. Pop. His fingers curled around the edge like claws. His face twisted with something dark and furious. "You're not taking him," he shouted. I threw my entire weight into the door, but he was stronger. Ethan screamed, "Mom." And then the porch light flickered overhead. Mark froze for half a second, just long enough. Slammed the door shut, locked it, started the car. The engine roared. Mark pounded his fist on the window. "You're making a mistake," he screamed. I didn't care. I reversed so fast the tires screeched. Ethan sobbed, covering his ears. And as we sped down the street, leaving our home, our life behind us, I glanced in the rearview mirror. Mark stood in the middle of the road, watching us. His hands at his sides. His body perfectly still. And he smiled. A smile I would never forget. A smile that promised this wasn't over. Not even close. I didn't stop driving until the houses thinned out, until streetlights became lonely dots in the dark, until the road stretched long and empty ahead of us. Only then did I finally pull into a deserted gas station on the edge of town. My hands were still shaking. Ethan's soft sobs filled the car, each one stabbing deeper into my chest. I reached over, hugging him as tightly as the center console would allow. He clung to me like he was afraid I might disappear too. "Mom, what's wrong with Dad?" he whispered. I wish I had an answer. I wish I knew how to explain betrayal, fear, and danger in a way a child could understand. But Ethan wasn't just any child. He already knew something was deeply broken. "We're safe now," I said instead, brushing his hair off his forehead. But were we? Mark had smiled when we drove away. Not shocked, not angry, smiling, like he already had a plan, like we were doing exactly what he expected. That thought chilled me more than anything. I took a moment to breathe, trying to steady myself. My heart felt like it was hitting a bruise over and over again. I pulled out my phone to call 911. My finger hovered over the screen, but then I paused. What would I even say? "My husband is doing something horrible in our basement." "What exactly, ma'am?" "I don't know, but someone might be down there." "You're not sure?" "No, but my son heard a scream." Would they send someone? Or would they say I had no evidence? The memory of the person tied to the chair flashed across my mind. The faint outline of a body, head hanging forward, arms bound. That wasn't a hallucination. That wasn't stress. That was real. But the moment I called the police, they would go to the house. They would talk to Mark. And he would lie. He would charm. He would manipulate. He always had a way of sounding believable, calm, even when he was dead wrong. And if they believed him over me, he would come after us. Stronger, angrier, smarter. I set the phone down, rubbing my forehead. "Mom," Ethan whispered, "can't we call someone?" "Who, baby?" My voice cracked. "Who can we trust right now?" He didn't answer, because he knew the truth too. We couldn't trust anyone. Not yet. After a few minutes, I stepped out of the car to pump gas. The cold air bit into my skin, grounding me back into reality. Everything looked normal. The flickering fluorescent lights above, the buzz of the old neon open sign, a long-haul truck idling near the far pump. Normal. But inside, nothing was normal anymore. When I looked up, the gas station convenience store attendant, a middle-aged woman with tired eyes and a ponytail, glanced at me through the window. She gave me a polite nod. I tried to smile back, but my lips didn't cooperate. I finished pumping, got back in the car, and pulled into a parking spot along the side of the building. "We'll rest for a minute," I said. "Then we'll figure out where to go." Ethan nodded, rubbing his eyes. "Mom, what if Dad comes here?" I looked out at the empty road. He won't know where we went. But again, a lie meant to protect him. Because a part of me knew Mark, and Mark, he always knew more than he should. A loud rumble echoed from the highway, a semi-truck passing by. The noise startled Ethan, and he grabbed my arm. "Ma, it's okay," I assured him quickly. "Just a truck." He slowly relaxed, but I didn't. I couldn't shake the image of Mark's smile, the way he stood in the street, completely still, watching us flee like he was memorizing every detail. A predator watching prey. I had to think. We needed a safe place, a hotel, too easy for him to track. A friend's house. He knew all of them by parents. They lived 3 states away. Too far, too risky. He would guess we'd go there. The police? What if they thought I was exaggerating? I was stuck in a maze with no exit. Ethan suddenly said, "Mom, can we go to Grandma's house?" I shook my head. "She's in Ohio, honey. That's too far tonight. But Dad won't find us there," he whispered. No, he wouldn't. But it wasn't safe to drive so long, in the state I was in, half in panic, half in survival mode. "We need somewhere close," I told him gently. "Just for tonight." He nodded even though he didn't understand. I looked at the glowing map on my dashboard screen. A few nearby towns popped up. One had a small sheriff's office. Another had a cheap motel. Another had nothing but farmland. I pressed my lips together, thinking hard. We needed a place Mark wouldn't expect, a place nobody would look. And then, bizarrely, an idea hit me. Not a comfortable one, not a perfect one, but maybe the only one. "Ethan," I said slowly, "we're going to your old school." He blinked in confusion. "My old school, the one we left last year." "Why, there's a church next to it," I explained. "Remember, the one with the daycare and the playground you used to love?" He nodded. "With the big blue slide?" "Yes, that one." The church had a small family shelter program. I remembered it from a flyer they used to send home, a program nobody really talked about, and even fewer used. Mark hated that school, hated that neighborhood. He always complained about the traffic there. He would never think to look for us there. "That's where we'll go," I whispered. "Is it safe?" Ethan asked. "As safe as anywhere right now." He reached for my hand, gripping it tightly. "Okay, Mom." So I started the car again. The drive took 40 minutes, 40 long, slow, anxiety-ridden minutes. Every pair of headlights behind us made my pulse spike. Every turn felt like it might reveal Mark's truck. Every shadow looked like it was moving. Ethan eventually fell asleep in the seat, exhaustion overpowering fear. But I stayed, alert. Hyper-alert. Every fiber of me felt like it was stretched too tightly. When we finally pulled into the old school parking lot, the familiar building loomed in the dark. The red brick, the chain-link fence, the faded "Go Tigers" banner still hanging crooked above the main doors, and beside it, the church glowed faintly, its outdoor lamp illuminating the small playground where Ethan used to run circles around the slide. The sight nearly broke me. This place once felt normal, safe, warm. Now, it felt like a refuge for survival. A sanctuary, parked in the far corner of the lot, near a row of bushes. There were no cameras here, no streetlights reaching this far. Perfect. Ethan stirred awake. "Are we here?" "Yes, sweetheart." He looked around, immediately recognizing the playground. "It's weird being back." "Yeah," I whispered. "It is." I turned off the car engine but kept the doors locked. For a moment, we just sat there, listening to the night wind rustle through the trees. "We'll go inside soon," I told him. He nodded, but before we could move, something flashed in my rearview mirror. Headlights. Bright. Coming down the road, toward the school entrance. My heart stopped. No. 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 Not here. Not now. Not him. "What is it?" Ethan whispered. I didn't answer. The headlights slowed, then turned into the school parking lot. My entire body froze. The car approached slowly, too slowly, scanning the lot. Ethan grabbed my arm. "Mom!" My voice barely worked. "Stay down." We both ducked low in our seats, breath held, hearts pounding so hard the whole car seemed to vibrate. The vehicle rolled closer, lights sweeping across the pavement, closer, and, when it came into full view, I felt my stomach twist. It was a pickup truck, dark gray, just like Mark's. I couldn't breathe. This was impossible. He couldn't have found us. He couldn't. The truck slowed near the playground. It stopped. Engine idled. I reached across and held Ethan's face close to my chest. "Don't look," I whispered. He trembled violently. The truck door opened. A man's silhouette stepped out. Tall. Broad. Shouldered. Hands in his pockets. He scanned the playground, then The church then, the parking lot. Then slowly he looked directly toward our car. My pulse exploded. He was walking toward us. Step by step. Deliberate. Purposeful. Ethan started to cry silently. The man reached the driver's side window. His shadow fell over the glass. I squeezed my eyes shut. This was it. But then he spoke. Not Mark's voice. Not even close. You folks okay in there? The stranger asked. I opened my eyes. Blinking. What? He leaned closer to the glass, concern on his face. You need some help. He wasn't Mark. He wasn't even close to Mark. Just some man. A stranger, a completely harmless stranger. But as relief flooded me, a new realization hit. If a random stranger could find us, Mark could too. And he would. Sooner than I ever feared. Sleep was impossible that night. My heart felt like someone had it gripped in a fist, squeezing tighter every time I replayed Michael's behavior in my mind. His silence, his defensiveness, his sudden sweetness in front of Noah, his tracks erased from the living room, his lie about going out for groceries. Everything pointed in one direction. He was hiding something. But what made it worse was that my son, the sweetest, most innocent soul I had ever known, was trying to tell me there was something wrong long before I was ready to hear it. Noah had never lied to me, never exaggerated, never made up stories for attention. He was a quiet kid, observant, sensitive, the type who notices when the neighbor's dog limps or when the mailman looks tired. So when he said, "Daddy is scary at night," I should have paid attention the first time. But I didn't. And everything happening now felt like the universe hitting me with a delayed punishment. The house felt wrong. It was around 2 a.m. The house was quiet, eerily quiet. No TV hum. No distant traffic. No wind brushing against the windows. Just an overwhelming stillness that wrapped around me like a too tight blanket. I kept pacing, up the hall, down the hall, into Noah's room to check on him, into the kitchen to stare blankly at the fridge, into the living room to stare at the walls. Every part of the house felt off, like the air had thickness to it. There was a moment where I actually caught myself holding my breath, straining to hear something: footsteps, movement, a voice, anything that explained the dread crawling under my skin. Instead, I heard nothing. But the silence felt like danger. My phone lit up at 2:38 a.m. My phone buzzed on the counter. I nearly jumped out of my skin. I grabbed it immediately, hoping it was Michael texting from wherever he really was. But it wasn't. Michael. It was our security company. A notification popped up. Entry motion detected, side door 237A.M. My blood turned into ice water. The side door, the mudroom door, the one Michael always used when he came home late. Had he returned? I grabbed the baseball bat I kept by the fridge, a habit I formed after too many nights alone during Michael's work trips. I tiptoed toward the my breath shallow, my fingers trembling around the handle. I didn't hear anything. I didn't see shadows, but the motion alert didn't lie. I put my hand on the doorknob, took one deep breath, and swung it open. The mudroom was empty, but the outside door, the one leading to the backyard, was unlocked. I never left that door unlocked, ever. Something in my gut twisted hard. A car engine in the driveway. Before I could process the unlocked door, I heard it, a faint engine hum. I turned off the mudroom light, peeked through the blinds, and there it was. A black SUV parked halfway down the driveway, lights off, engine running. My pulse crashed into overdrive. My first thought was burglary. Then, maybe someone following Michael. Then, something worse, something I didn't want to name. Whoever was inside the SUV wasn't leaving. They weren't getting out either. Just sitting there, watching. I ducked away from the window. For a moment, I debated calling the police, but a second thought hit me. What if it was Michael? He didn't own an SUV. But at this point I wasn't sure what to believe anymore. He could have borrowed it, rented it, been using it secretly for months. Maybe he wasn't coming home because he didn't want me to see the car. Maybe the person watching wasn't a stranger. Maybe it was my husband. The idea made my stomach churn. Footsteps upstairs just when I thought my nerves couldn't stretch any tighter. I heard something from upstairs. Thump. Then another thump. Slow, heavy, deliberate, coming from the hallway near the bedroom. I froze. Noah was upstairs, sleeping, or so I thought. But these steps weren't the light patter of a child wandering, half asleep, to the bathroom. They were adult steps. Adult steps. My throat tightened as I stepped backward, gripping the bat so hard my knuckles turned white. Someone was upstairs. Someone who shouldn't be here. I forced myself to whisper, Michael. Silence. Then dash Cree. AAAK. Not footsteps this time. A door hinge. The hallway closet. The one near Noah's room. Someone had opened it. My heart pounded so hard it hurt. For a brief second, I pictured 1,000 worst-case scenarios. A stalker, a trespasser, hiding inside the house. But the truth I was afraid of, was even worse. I was terrified that it was Michael, and that I'd discover something about him that I could never unsee. My mother's instinct took over. I didn't wait. I didn't think. I only moved. I raced up the stairs and stormed toward Noah's room, ready to swing if I had to. Halfway down the hallway, something in my periphery made me stop. The closet door stood wide open, completely empty, nothing disturbed, no footprints on the carpet. But the light inside the closet, the small bulb on a pull string, was on. We never used that light. Noah couldn't reach it, and I hadn't touched it in weeks. Someone turned it on, recently. That was all I needed to know. I hurried to Noah's room and pushed the door open. He sat awake in bed, hugging his pillow, eyes wide and glossy with fear. Mommy, he whispered. Is he here? My stomach dropped. I knelt beside him immediately. Who, baby, who's here? He swallowed, eyes darting to the doorway. Daddy, he whispered, but not the nice daddy. Every hair on my body stood up before I could respond, before I could breathe, before I could even think. We heard the unmistakable sound. A floorboard creaked right behind us. That creak behind us was soft, but unmistakable, the kind of sound a floorboard makes when someone shifts their weight on it. Someone was in the hallway, right outside Noah's bedroom. My chest tightened so sharply, it felt like a knife between my ribs. Instinct took over. I pulled Noah into my arms, shielding him behind me, as I stood up and raised the baseball bat. That silence followed. Not peaceful silence, not ordinary silence, the kind that hums with tension, like the air itself is holding its breath. I waited. 5 seconds, 10, 15. No movement, no voice, no shadow, just the faint nightlight glowing behind Noah's pirate-themed curtains. But the creak had been real, heard by both of us, felt in my bones. Mommy, Noah whispered, clutching my shirt. Don't go out there. He was trembling, really trembling, like he'd seen a monster. I dropped to my knees again, holding his face gently between my hands. Sweetheart, listen to me. Are you scared because you heard something, or because of something Daddy did? His eyes filled instantly, big, scared tears that clung to his lashes. Because of what Daddy does at night, he whispered. But my heart cracked. What does Daddy do? He shook his head so hard his hair brushed his cheeks. No, Mommy, he said not to tell. He said bad things will happen if I tell. My blood ran cold. What things, baby? Again, that terrified headshake. I hugged him tight. Nothing bad will happen. I promise, Mummy will keep you safe. But he whispered back, barely audible. You can't. Not from the night Daddy. The night Daddy. My throat closed. Before I could ask more, before I could unpack a single part of that horrifying phrase, a noise cut through the hallway. A soft, dragging sound, something brushing against the carpet. My muscles tensed instantly. I stood up, pushing Noah gently behind me. The bat felt too light in my hands. I inched toward the doorway, every cell in my body screaming not to look, but every inch of mother's instinct demanding I face it. I peeked into the hallway, and for a second, saw him, a figure standing at the far end of the hallway, a man, still silent, facing us. My breath died in my chest. The hallway was dim, lit only by the soft glow of a nightlight plugged into an outlet near the stairs. I could barely see details, but the shape was unmistakable. Tall, broad shoulders, familiar silhouette. Michael. Or someone who looked like him. But something was wrong. Off, distorted. His posture wasn't normal. His neck was tilted slightly, unnaturally, like his head was too heavy or too loose on his shoulders. His arms hung too straight at his sides. He wasn't breathing heavily, or shifting, or blinking. He wasn't moving at all, just watching us. Michael, I said, my voice shaking. No answer. Just that eerie, unmoving stare. Something inside me screamed, that is not your husband. I blinked, just for a fraction of a second, and when my eyes opened again, he was gone, completely gone, as if he'd never been there at all. But I knew what I saw. Every nerve in my body knew it. No hallucination feels that real. No shadow is shaped that specifically. I staggered backward into Noah's doorway. He grabbed my arm. Mommy, you saw him. didn't you?" I nodded slowly. My voice barely formed the words. "Yes, I saw someone." His bottom lip quivered. "That's the one I mean," he whispered. "That's the night daddy." A chill rolled down my spine so violently, I nearly dropped the bat dot. The house wasn't safe. Annie Murray knew instantly we couldn't stay here. Not tonight, not another minute. I scooped Noah up, holding him as he wrapped his arms around my neck. "Baby, we're leaving now." He didn't argue. He didn't ask where. He just nodded into my shoulder. I moved fast, keeping Noah close and the bat ready, down the stairs, past the hall closet with its light still on, toward the front door. But as I reached the bottom step, something caught my eye. The SUV in the driveway, still there, still running, still dark, watching. My breath hitched. Was it related? Were they connected? Was the figure upstairs connected to whoever was outside? Or worse, had Michael been involved with both? I didn't have answers, and I wasn't staying long enough to find out. I grabbed my keys from the bowl by the door, shoved my feet into shoes without even checking if they matched, and yanked the door open. A burst of cold night air hit us. I carried Noah to my car as fast as my shaky legs could move, but halfway there, he whispered against my neck, "Mommy, don't look behind us," which of course made me look. The SUV's driver's side door was open, and a man stepped out. Tall, dark jacket, face hidden by shadow. I couldn't see who it was, but he started walking toward us. Slow, measured, purposeful. I fumbled with the keys, my hands slipping. "Mommy, go," Noah begged. The man kept coming. 10 feet, 8, 6. I finally got the door open and shoved Noah inside. But before I could get in myself, the man stopped, dead still, then tilted his head, the same way the figure in the hallway had. And in that moment, my whole body whispered one truth. This man knew Michael, or worked with him, or was here because of him. But whatever the connection was, it wasn't innocent. I jumped into the car, slammed the door, hit the lock button, and reversed so hard that tires screeched across the driveway. Man didn't chase us. He didn't shout. He just stood there watching us drive away, the same way he'd been watching the house all night. Noah was crying softly in the back seat as I sped down the dark street. "Mommy," he whispered, voice trembling, "please don't take me back there." I reached back blindly, squeezing his hand. "I won't, sweetheart, I promise." But as the reality hit me, my heart nearly stopped. If Michael was involved in this, if he was part of something dark, if he had people watching our home, then running wasn't enough. We needed answers, because whatever Noah had seen, whatever he was warning me about, it was only the beginning. I drove without a destination, hands shaking so badly the wheel felt like it was vibrating. Every streetlight we passed smeared into long yellow streaks through my watery vision. The entire time, I kept checking the mirror, terrified that black SUV was behind us. But it wasn't. The road was empty. Quiet. Still. Too still. Noah sat curled in the back seat, hugging his stuffed bear so tightly I could see his knuckles glowing pale in the shadows. Every so often, a tiny whimper slipped out of him, like he was trying not to cry. My son never cried quietly. He was a loud sobber, a wailer. But tonight, he was scared enough to be silent. That alone told me everything. We ended up in the brightly lit parking lot of a 24-hour gas station on the edge of town. Not a glamorous hideout, but it was public, well lit, and had cameras everywhere. I parked near the front door, directly under an overhead light. As soon as I put the car in park, I turned to face Noah. "Sweetheart," I whispered gently, "we're safe right now. No one followed us." He looked up, eyes wide and glistening. "Not even Daddy?" The question sliced through me. Double quotes. "No, baby, not even Daddy." His shoulders dropped, not in relief, but in heavy sadness. That expression, my God, no 5-year-old should ever wear that kind of expression. I reached back and smoothed his hair. "You can tell Mommy anything," I said softly. "You won't get in trouble. Daddy won't hurt you. You're safe." Noah stared at his stuffed bear. Then he whispered, "He said I would ruin everything if I told you." My jaw clenched so hard it hurt. "What would you ruin, sweetheart?" He hesitated long enough to break my heart a second time. Then, with a trembling voice, he whispered, "Daddy's nights." A chill tore down my spine. The night Michael, Sayaj and Jidi, we sat in that parking lot for almost an hour. Noah finally drifted to sleep in the back seat, exhausted from fear. I kept checking the mirrors, checking my phone, checking my no strangers watching, just me, the buzzing fluorescent lights, and the crushing weight of dread. Eventually, I cracked. I needed answers. I needed them now, so I did something I should have done weeks ago. I opened Michael's email. He had given me the password years ago, during one of his trust-building phases. I hadn't used it in ages. He assumed I never would. But tonight, I wasn't the wife he thought he could manipulate or pacify anymore. I was a mother on a mission. The password still worked, and that is where everything began to unravel. The email that changed everything at first. His inbox looked normal, regular work messages, Amazon receipts, spam. Then I saw it, a folder I had never noticed before, buried inside another folder, almost like someone trying to hide something in plain sight. The folder was labeled Night. Felicity felt my blood pressure spike. My hands wouldn't stop trembling as I tapped it open. Inside were videos, dozens of them, time-stamped between midnight and 4 a.m. on different nights. Most of the thumbnails were dark, blurry images, sometimes the inside of a dimly lit room, sometimes the backyard at night, sometimes a car interior. But one video thumbnail made my stomach drop. Our hallway, the same hallway where I saw the figure, the same hallway Noah was terrified of, the same hallway we ran from hours earlier. My chest tightened, my heartbeat punching against my ribs. I pressed play. The video started with static, then slowly the hallway came into focus. It was empty, silent, dark, just like I'd seen it earlier. Then a shadow moved, slowly, deliberately, at the far end of the hall, a shadow shaped like a man. I leaned closer, breath caught in my throat. The figure stepped into view, tall, broad, familiar. My husband. His face was blank, expressionless, eyes open but empty, like no one was home behind them. His walk was stiff, mechanical, like he wasn't controlling his body, like someone else was moving him. He paced, back and forth, for almost 10 minutes. Then abruptly he stopped, turned his head, and stared directly into the camera. I flinched so hard my phone fell into my lap. My skin crawled. His eyes, God, his eyes, looked hollow, dead, like dark holes carved into a mask. No blink, no emotion, just that blank, chilling stare. And then at the very end of the video, seconds before it cut off, I saw something else. Someone else, a small shape, a child, standing in the doorway of Noah's room. Noah watching his father, frozen in fear. The video ended. I sat shaking, unable to breathe. Why was Michael recording this? The question almost didn't feel real. Why would Michael record himself wandering the house at night? Why hide the videos? Why pretend nothing was wrong? Was he sleepwalking? Was this some kind of medical condition? No. Because every instinct inside me screamed, this wasn't sleepwalking. Sleepwalkers don't stare coldly into cameras for minutes. They don't keep secret files labeled night. They don't have strange men waiting in black SUVs at 2 a.m. They don't threaten their children into silence. This was something else, something darker, something intentional. And worst of Ali, wasn't sure if Michael even remembered these nights. The message I wasn't supposed to see. I clicked out of the video folder. That's when I noticed another email, unread, time-stamped, just an hour ago, from an unknown address, nightshift.contact, at the subject line. Client adjustment required. Before she finds out. I didn't breathe. My vision blurred. I opened it. The email was only one sentence. Control your nights or we will control them for you. My stomach dropped so fast I nearly vomited. Control your nights. I whispered the words aloud, horrified. Control your nights. My son's words suddenly made perfect sense. Not the nice daddy, the night daddy. He said I'd ruined everything if I told. Oh God, Michael wasn't alone in this. He was involved with people who expected something from him, people who watched our home, people who were willing to interfere if he didn't cooperate. Who were they? And what did nights even mean? I didn't know. But one thing became terrifyingly clear. Michael wasn't just hiding something. He was part of something dangerous, something that put our son in direct harm's way. I locked my phone with shaking hands and whispered to myself, enough, we're done with him. But before I could even start the car, again a sharp knock hit the passenger window. I screamed. Noah jolted awake, crying instantly. I whipped my head to the right, and there, leaning close to the glass, face shadowed by the parking lot light, was Michael. His expression blank, cold, calculated, and he mouthed one slow sentence, "You shouldn't have left." My blood turned to ice. Michael's face in the window looked unfamiliar, hollow, flattened, emotionless, like every human feature had been drained out and replaced with something mechanical. He didn't knock again. He didn't shout. He didn't look confused or angry the way any normal husband would. If he found his wife and child hiding from him at 3 a.m. in a gas station parking lot, he just stared. And the stillness of him, the unnatural calm, was more terrifying than if he had punched through the glass. Noah whimpered behind me, cowering into the seat. I pressed a hand over my son's chest to reassure him, but my own heart was pounding so loud I felt it vibrating through my fingers. Michael leaned a little closer to the window. His breath fogged the glass in a slow, steady rhythm. Then, without blinking, he mouthed again, "You shouldn't have left." I froze, every nerve ending lit on fire. This wasn't worry. This wasn't concern. This wasn't even anger. It was a warning, a command, as if leaving was disobedience, as if we were property. I forced my voice out, barely above a whisper. "Michael, what are you doing here?" He didn't answer. He didn't move, just stared. I hit the lock button again even though the doors were already locked. It was instinct, like maybe double-clicking would magically keep him out. Michael slowly lowered his gaze to the lock on the door, then looked back up at me with a small, twisted smile, a smile I'd never seen before, a smile that didn't belong to the man I married. Then, he spoke quietly, but perfectly clear through the closed window. "Unlock the door, Emily." That was when I hit the panic button. The car horn blasted, loud and sharp, echoing across the empty parking lot. Michael flinched just slightly, then straightened. For the first time all night, he reacted like a normal human. But instead of stepping back, he walked around the front of the car slowly, heading toward the driver's side. I scrambled into motion, starting the engine with shaking hands. Double quotes, "Mommy no no Dawn, single quotes T let him in." Noah begged from the back, voice cracking with fear. "I won't," I said. My voice shook. "I promise." Michael reached my door and grabbed the handle. He pulled hard. The locked door jolted against the frame. He pulled again and again, not shouting, not pleading, just trying with quiet determination, like he wasn't angry that I fled, just annoyed that I wasn't following orders. I floored the accelerator. The car lurched forward so fast I nearly lost control. Michael stumbled to the side, slamming a hand against the hood as we shot past him and onto the road. I tore out of the parking lot, tires screeching against the pavement. In the rearview mirror, Michael stood still under the harsh fluorescent lights, his head tilted, watching us disappear. Where could we go? The interstate was empty at that hour, vast and dark, lined with endless fields and occasional headlights miles away. My brain ran wild that we couldn't go home. We couldn't go to a friend's house. We couldn't go to my parents too far. And Michael knew exactly where they lived. Police. The logical answer, but not yet. Not without evidence I could show without sounding insane. If I walked into a station saying my husband had a night version of himself, and strangers monitored our house in black SUVs, I'd sound unhinged. I needed proof. Solid, undeniable proof. And I knew exactly where to find it. Michael's workplace. His office. His files. His laptop, which he guarded like it contained nuclear codes. His night folder hadn't been for our house only. There were other videos in that list, dozens from other locations. He wasn't sleepwalking. He was recording something. Maybe himself. Maybe something done to him. Maybe something he did to others. Whatever the truth was, it was at his office. I drove straight toward the city. The building in the DARK. Michael worked at a mid-sized tech consulting firm, a glass building off the freeway that usually looked sleek and modern during the day. At 4 a.m., it looked cold. Ominous, a block of black glass swallowing the moonlight. Only a couple of lights were on inside. Maybe cleaning crews, maybe security. I parked across the street, keeping the car engine running to keep Noah warm. He was exhausted, but too scared to sleep again. "Mommy," he whispered, "please don't leave me." "I'm not going far," I said, brushing his cheek. "I just need to get something so we can explain everything to the police." "Is Daddy coming?" "No, sweetheart." A lie, but I won't be long. I locked the doors, told him to hide if he saw anyone near the car, and ran across the empty street toward the building. My sneakers slapped hard against the pavement, each step beating in my ears like a drum. The front doors were locked, obviously, but Michael often bragged that he was one of the only employees with after-hours access to the building. I had something he didn't expect me to use, his KEYCARD. It was in my purse. attached to a lanyard I'd pretended not to recognize months ago. I tapped the scanner. A soft beep. Green light. The door clicked. Open. I exhaled shakily and slipped inside. The office at night was building's lobby felt like the inside of a freezer, too cold to still. My footsteps echoed unnaturally against the polished floor. The elevator ride to the fourth floor felt endless, the kind of ride where you keep expecting the lights to flicker or the power to cut out. When the doors opened, the entire floor was pitch dark except for a streak of light under Michael's office door. My stomach twisted. Someone was inside. Slowly, I crept down the hallway, my heart beating like a war drum. The closer I got, the more I heard it. Typing. Fast, steady typing, not random clacking. Focused, determined, almost rhythmic. I reached the door. The blinds were closed, but a shadow moved behind them. Broad shoulders, a tilted head, familiar posture. My breath caught. It was him. Michael. Here, working. At 4:15. After chasing us from a gas station. How did he get here so fast? Did he follow us? Did he take a shortcut? Or did he never chase us at all? My hands trembled as I wrapped my fingers around the doorknob. I turned it slowly. The door creaked open, and what I saw inside, what I saw my husband doing, will haunt me for the rest of my life. He wasn't alone. Amico sat at his desk, typing furiously on his laptop, eyes unblinking, face slack and disturbingly calm. But that wasn't the worst part. Standing behind him, towering over him, leaning close to his ear, was the same figure I'd seen in our hallway, the night version, the one Noah feared, the one that had stared at us, except now I could see his face, and dear God, it was Michael, a second Michael, expressionless, vacant, glassy, dash-eyed. 1 version typing. 1 version watching, 2 Michaels, and neither looked human anymore. That's when the typing Michael stopped, turned his head, very slowly, and said in a low, calm voice, "You were supposed to stay home." The other one, the one standing, smiled at me, smiled like he'd been waiting for this exact moment. I stumbled backward, gripping the doorframe to keep from collapsing. What are you?" I whispered, terrified. Both Michaels answered at once, perfectly in sync. "We are what he let in." My throat closed, my vision blurred, the room began to spin. And all I could think like a mantra, over and over, was Noah, 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 get back to Noah. I turned to Renan. That was when the standing Michael grabbed my arm, not forcefully, just firmly, but his hand was ice cold, unnaturally cold. I screamed and he leaned in, whispering, "It's too late to run now." I didn't sleep that night, not even for a minute. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the shadow leaning over my son's bed, the hand reaching toward him, the cold voice whispering something I still couldn't understand. Every instinct inside me wanted to run, take my little boy, and disappear into the night. But after today, after everything we had uncovered, I knew running wouldn't save us. We had to finish this. We had to stop him, because whatever version of Ethan remained, whatever pieces of the man I once loved still flickered inside his body, they weren't in control anymore. Something darker was pulling the strings, something calculating, something that had been preparing for this for a long time, and I was finally starting to understand why my son had whispered those first terrifying words. "Mommy, I think Daddy watches me when I'm sleeping, but his eyes aren't right." By the time the sun rose, my living room looked like the aftermath of some covert operation. Papers lay everywhere, financial statements, property deeds, emails, receipts, employee logs from his night shifts. Detective Dawson arrived just after 6. She stepped inside, took one sweeping look at the table covered in evidence, and let out a low whistle. "You really did half my job for me," she muttered, rubbing her temple. "Jesus, Allison, this is a lot." I didn't respond. I just wrapped my arms around myself, staring at the wall as though it might crack open and reveal some new horror. She looked exhausted, too, like she hadn't slept either. "Where's Jacob?" she asked softly. "Sleeping. I checked on him 3 times already," I whispered. "His nightlight's on. The door's open. I'm not letting him out of my sight again." She nodded. "Good, because things are moving fast now. We got the search warrant approved early this morning. For his other property. For both," she said grimly. "His main workplace, and the location you found the old auto shop." My chest tightened. And the team is heading there in 20 minutes. We're doing this the right way, methodical, controlled." She looked at me, her expression serious but sympathetic. "You cannot be anywhere near those sites. Allison, I didn't argue. Deep down, I knew she was right. If Ethan saw me during the raid, it could trigger something catastrophic. Still, the helplessness clawed at me. What if he figures it out? What if he comes here? We have a patrol car stationed at the end of your street. She walked closer and spoke in a steady tone. We've also flagged your husband's vehicle. If he so much as crosses into the county again, we'll know. I swallowed hard. It wasn't enough. Not by a long shot, but it was something. Before leaving, Detective Dawson placed a hand on my shoulder. We'll call the moment we have him. And then, she was gone, leaving me alone with the ticking clock, the quiet house, and the overwhelming dread that something was already going wrong. I tried to distract myself. I made waffles for Jacob even, though my hands trembled the whole time. He ate slowly, sleepy-eyed, clutching his stuffed dinosaur, completely unaware of the storm swirling around us. Mommy, he asked softly, syrup smeared on his cheek. When Daddy's not all weird anymore, can he tuck me in again? My heart cracked. I didn't know how to answer. I didn't know if that man would ever exist again, so I just smoothed his hair and kissed his forehead. We'll see, baby. He smiled, like he believed it, like things could still be okay, if only he knew. 2 hours passed, then 3, then 4. By noon, there was still no update. Nothing but silence, heavy, suffocating silence. I called Detective Dawson, twice no answer. Texted her no reply. That was when the panic really set in. Something wasn't right. I paced the living room, hands shaking, mind spiraling. What if Ethan had gotten there first? What if he'd moved everything? What if he'd known all along what I was planning? I kept replaying every moment, every strange look, every tense conversation, searching for signs I missed. The more I thought about it, the more everything pointed to one awful truth. Ethan had been hiding a second life longer than any of us realized, and he was terrifyingly good at staying 2 steps ahead. At 12:47 p.m., I heard the sound. Not loud, not dramatic, just a soft tap against the front window. I froze. Another tap, tapped on. My heart crashed into my ribs. I slowly walked toward the window, feeling my pulse in my throat. Then I saw it. A small folded piece of paper, stuck under a rock on the porch, as though someone had placed it there gently, carefully. Minutes earlier, no car, no footsteps, no sign of anyone, just the note. And somehow, that made it so much worse. I opened the door with trembling fingers, grabbed the paper, and closed the door again quickly, locking it, triple locking it. My breath shook as I unfolded the note. At first, all I saw were words scrawled in Ethan's handwriting, only not quite the same, messier, sharper, like someone had copied the shape of his letters but didn't understand the meaning. The note read, "Stop looking. You're putting him in danger. I warned you once. I won't warn you again." My knees nearly buckled. It wasn't signed. It didn't need to be. But then my eyes dropped to the last line, barely visible, written lighter than the rest, like a final thought scribbled in hesitation. "Tell Jacob I love him." Something inside me shattered, because that line, those words, that was Ethan, the man I married, the man who adored our son more than life itself. It meant only one thing. Part of him was still in there. He was fighting something overwhelming, something he couldn't escape, and he was losing. I didn't have time to process, didn't have time to breathe. My phone rang. I grabbed it instantly. "Detective Dawson," I answered, but it wasn't her voice. It was deeper, rougher, unfamiliar. Double quotes, "Mrs. Hale," the man said. "This is Officer Turner from County Division. We need you to remain calm." My stomach dropped. There was an incident at the secondary location, he said. "Your husband was." The line crackled. The officer hesitated, and those 3 seconds of silence felt like the ground opening beneath me. "Your husband was there before our team arrived," he continued. "There was a confrontation." I felt cold, ice cold. Jacob looked up from the couch, sensing something was wrong. My voice barely worked. He's Ethan alive?" The officer exhaled, slowly, uneasily. "That's what we're trying to determine now," he said. "But Mrs. Hale, whatever he had set up in that place." He stopped, corrected himself. "It was worse than we thought." My heart crashed into my chest. Worse. What could possibly be worse? "Ma'am," the officer said, voice low, "Detective Dawson is on her way to you now for your safety." Another pause. "Do not open your door for anyone until she arrives." The line clicked. I stood there, frozen, the weight of his words settling over me like concrete. Worse than they thought. Ethan missing. A threat on my porch. a warning written in a familiar but twisted hand. And now a shadow moved outside my front window. Slow. Deliberate. Too tall to be the detective. Too broad. My breath hitched. Jacob whispered, "Mommy, is someone here?" I pulled him behind me, stepping back slowly, the same way you would if a predator walked into the room. Because deep in my bones, I knew whatever stood outside my house, whatever was watching us through the glass, it wasn't just Ethan anymore. It was the thing that had taken him, and it was done hiding. The figure outside the window didn't move at first, just a shape, a silhouette, frozen, watching. For a moment, the world went completely silent, no cars passing, no wind, no background hum from the refrigerator, just the pounding of my heart and the faint sound of my little boy breathing behind me. "Mummy," Jacob whispered, gripping my shirt. I didn't speak, didn't blink, didn't breathe. I could feel the eyes through the glass. I didn't need to see them to know whose they were or what they had become. I forced myself to think, Detective Dawson is on the way. The police are coming. Just hold on, hold on, hold. A soft knock echoed through the house. 1, 2, 3 taps. Each one slow, each one controlled, each one designed to make my blood turn to ice. I held Jacob close and whispered, "Don't make a sound." Another knock, this time followed by a low voice barely audible, like it was dragging through gravel. "Allison." Not a plea, not a question, a statement. The voice was Ethan, and at the same time, it wasn't. It sounded like two voices layered together, his and something deeper, something that didn't belong in any human throat. "Allison, open the door." My entire body, tensed. He knew I wouldn't. "You're scaring me," I whispered before I could stop myself from the other side of the door. A strange sound slipped through, not anger, not frustration, a laugh, but not Ethan's. "Scaring you," the thing mocked. "Oh, sweetheart, I haven't even started." Jacob whimpered into my side. I felt him trembling and gently covered his ear with my hand. The door handle twitched, but my heart stopped. The lock held. The handle twitched again, harder this time. "Mummy." Jacob's voice shook. I scooped him up, backing away slowly. "It's okay. It's okay. I've got you." But the truth was, I didn't have anything under control. The door shook violently. Then silence. A long, heavy silence followed by a whisper through the mail slot. "You should have listened." A chill swept over me so sharply, I swore the room dropped 10 degrees. Then I heard footsteps, slow, heavy, walking off the porch. For a moment, stupid hope flickered. Maybe he's leaving, maybe a shadow. Past the kitchen window. Then the dining room window. Then the backyard. He was circling the house. Hunting. I grabbed my phone with shaking hands and dialed Detective Dawson before it even rang. I heard tires screech outside, fast, loud, close. I ran to the front window just in time to see a dark sedan skidding to a stop in my driveway. The driver's door flung open. Detective Dawson jumped out, gun drawn. "Allison, stay inside." Behind her, 2 more unmarked cars pulled in. The rest of her team. Relief washed through me so fast it almost made me weak. But that relief lasted all of 3 seconds, because, from the far side of the house where the woods began, a shadow tore across the yard, darting between the trees like something feral. Too fast. Far too fast. "There!" one officer shouted. In the tree. Dawson didn't hesitate. "Move, move." The police sprinted toward the woods, flashlights slicing through the branches. I held Jacob close against my chest as lights flickered in and out. Officers yelling, radios crackling with frantic voices. Then a scream, not from fear, from pain. It cut through the air like a blade. Another yell, "Officer down." My knees nearly gave out. Jacob clung to me, crying now, burying his face against my shoulder. More shouting, more thrashing, something crashing through brush. A gunshot, then another. "Do we have eyes?" Dawson yelled. "Negative. He's too fast." There, behind that stump. No. A silence fell. Then one final gunshot cracked through the forest. Every muscle in my body locked. Then "Suspect is down." Repeat, "Suspect is down." Dawson's voice came through clearer than everyone else's, steady but strained. "Secure him. Check vitals. Everyone stay sharp. I don't want him getting back up." Minutes passed like hours. Finally, Dawson walked out of the woods, her face pale, her badge clipped crooked from running. I opened the door before she could knock. Her eyes softened just a little when she saw Jacob in my arms, still shaking. "He's okay." she said gently. You're both okay. I swallowed hard. What about Ethan? She paused. That pause told me everything before she spoke a single word. We found him, she said quietly. He was severely injured. He's being taken to a secure medical unit. Was he? I struggled. Did he try to hurt you? Dawson hesitated again. Mrs. Hale, she said slowly, I don't know how to explain what we saw out there. Your husband wasn't acting like a normal suspect. His strength, his speed, his behavior, none of it made sense. My stomach twisted. I'm sorry, she added softly. But whatever he got mixed up in, whatever he was involved with, it changed him. I closed my eyes. Tears spilled before I even realized. I was crying, because even though he was alive somewhere deep inside, I knew the truth. The man I married had been gone long before tonight. They took statements for hours. They searched the woods, the house, the surrounding properties. They asked questions I couldn't answer. They documented everything by the time they left. The sun had set. I sat on the couch, Jacob curled up asleep in my lap, his tiny fingers still clutching my shirt even in his dreams. The house was quiet again. Too quiet. Detective Dawson returned once more, just after 10 p.m., her face drawn tight. We'll have a protective detail on your house until things settle, she said. Your husband is stable but unconscious. When he wakes up, if he wakes up, we'll question him. I nodded weakly. She paused at the door. Allison, she said gently, if he was fighting something inside him, your son probably saw it first. She offered the smallest, saddest smile. Kids see the truth before adults do. When she left, I finally let myself cry. Deep, shaking sobs that I'd been holding inside for weeks. I cried for my son, for the fear he lived with, for the husband I lost piece by piece, for the life that would never be the same again. But most of all, I cried because the note he left, the one written by two hands, mine, sat on my coffee table, and the last line kept echoing in my head. Tell Jacob I love him. Despite everything, that part was real. The last piece of Ethan that hadn't been swallowed. That night, I didn't sleep at all. I watched Jacob breathe, watched his chest rise and fall, watched the shadows in his room, and somewhere deep in the hospital, under guard, strapped to a bed, Ethan Hale finally opened his eyes and whispered, "It's not done."